Hey, welcome in. My name is Coach Hapa from the DJCoach.com. Excited that you are here. This video is really going to help a lot of you who have wanted to learn to scratch, but maybe haven't had somebody show you the ropes. So we've got today the DJ Control Impulse T7 made by Hercules, and we are going to use this simply because it's an awesome controller. It's got motorized platters, and so there is a bit of a difference. Actually, it's more than a bit. There is a pretty big difference when scratching with non-motorized platters and then going to motorized platters. So some of you own the DJ Control Impulse T7, and yet you've never used motorized platters before, and you've never scratched on motorized platters. So I'm going to walk you through it. We're also going to break down some basic music theory today because it's not just a wiki wiki whack whack. Like there's a there's actual music involved. And I didn't realize that until much later. So we're going to jump in. The first thing I want to do is I want to actually, let me switch here. The first thing I want to do is I want to make sure that we have our sounds hooked up. So I went and I grabbed from the actual demo tracks that are already inside of Juiced. That's what we're using today. We're using Juiced. Inside of the demo songs, there's a scratch track. And that's what I pulled up here on the deck. Now, the scratch track is a special track that just has sounds.
Juiced 40.
Juiced 40.
Oh my God!
So it just has sounds that I can use to scratch along with. And now, this is probably the most famous sound that you've heard people scratch to. That ah sound. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this ah sound to be able to scratch. And first, I just want to show you the difference between doing this musically and just randomly. So here's randomly. That sounds like noise. That just sounds like chaos. Here is musically. These are all notes that I'm going to show you and that we're going to break down. So let's jump over to the whiteboard. So I'm just going to go over some basic music theory, basic note structure. Some of you might know this already. It might be a bit of a review. Others of you, this is the first time hearing this. So I'm going to break this down real quick. So we've got beats, bars, and phrases. A beat is, I define as a head nod. So I know that sounds pretty silly, but every time you hear a beat, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Those are all beats. That was 8 beats. A bar is a group of beats, 4 beats to a bar. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4. And then a phrase is 4 bars, which is equal to 16 beats. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. That's one phrase. I'm going to draw it out like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. So this could be said 3 different ways, and they're all correct. One phrase, 4 bars, or 16 beats. Awesome. So now what we want to do is let's zoom in a little bit more, and we're just going to talk about this first bar. So we're going to start to talk about some notes. When it comes to notes, I'm going to put in whole notes, half notes, quarter, eighth, 16th. So I used to play the drums, and when I would play the drums, I would have 2 different drumsticks. Forward 2, 3, 4, back 2, 3, 4, forward 2, 3, 4, back 2, 3, 4. Now, when it comes to half notes, I'll put the forward in. Where do we think the back goes? Right here, right? Halfway through this. So forward, back, forward, back, forward, back. And actually, this would be best said forward 2, back 2, forward 2, back 2, forward 2, back 2. You see there's a beat in between. Okay, so let's go to quarter notes. Quarter notes would be, I'll put the forward in. Where's the back go? Right, it's on the next beat. So essentially, you see that there's a sound on every beat. On every head nod, there's a sound. All right, so this is going to get a little crazy here. There's a sound on every beat. I'm going to now zoom in a little bit more just so that we're looking at only one bar. We're really only looking at this first bar now. So let me just draw a line here. All right, so eighth notes, I'll put the forward in. Where's the back go? In between the beats, right? So there's essentially a forward on every beat. And sixteenths would be even crazier, right? So it looks, at some point now, this looks like I'm just scribbling, but that's forward, back, forward, back, forward, back, forward, back, or 1E and a, 2E and a, 3E and a. So this is a whole note, a half note, a quarter note, an eighth, and a 16th. So if we look at this, how many sounds are in one bar of whole notes? Just one, right? Half notes, there's 2. Quarters, there's 4. Eighth notes, yeah, you get the idea. 16ths, there's 16 notes. Now let's jump in and let me show you all the notes. So let me switch over here, and we are going to take our same ah. And in fact, actually, let me show you this. You see this line right here? I'm going to get this line to 12 o'clock. So I'm going to look at my platter like a clock. I'm going to get this to 12 o'clock, and then I'm going to hit the first hot cue. What that's going to do is now that's going to put that first hot cue at this 12 o'clock so that I have a visual reference. And then on this, with the motorized platter, what I really want to do is touch is really important. So right now, the platter is actually moving underneath me. Oh, I have the volume down. The platter is moving underneath me. When I let go of my hand, it's going to play. So the question is, how, like when it comes to the touch, how hard do I press down on the actual platter? So here's a good exercise if you're not sure. Press down on the platter all the way till it stops. So right now, I'm actually forcing the motor to stop. I'm pressing down on the platter. Now this is too much pressure. So I'm going to start to lift off, and I'm going to get lighter and lighter and lighter until I'm the lightest I could possibly be with the record still in place of where it's at. I've got 1 to 2 fingers probably on the platter. Depends on how big your hands are. And you notice that my hand is at 9 o'clock. So my hand's at 9 o'clock. My sound is queued up to this 12. So I'm going to run you through the notes now. So here's whole notes. Forward, 2, forward, 2, back, 2, half, 2, back, 2, forward, 2, back, quarter, eighths, 16th, back to whole notes. Okay, so those are all the notes. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to put it together in a bit of an exercise that we like to call follow the leader. So you're just going to follow along to what it is that I'm doing. In fact, what we're going to do is we're going to split this up. I'm going to take 4 beats. You're going to take 4 beats. So it'll start like this. Forward, 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 forward. Then you, 2, 3, 4. Then me, 2, 3, 4. And in fact, what I've done, and you're right behind me, what I've done is, so that I don't confuse you, I'm going to be on the same beats as you. And what we have is we're all, both of us, are going to follow along to the track that I've already recorded. So I've already recorded a leader part, and we're all just going to follow what the leader is doing. Okay, so all we got to do is listen. Now, a couple of tips before we get started. One is we're going to set that up for that 12 o'clock mark, and we're going to pay attention to where that mark is. The other thing, though, with the hands, this is not a finger motion, and it's not a wrist motion. This is a full arm motion. So we want to use our full arm here. Okay, so, and then a big thing, we want to make sure that we're up, standing up. You could scratch sitting down if you want, but it's a bit harder. I would recommend standing up. And we're also going to use our body to move to this. So we're going to lock this beat in. We're going to move to it. That's going to really help with our rhythm and timing. Because guess what? Our hand, which is touching the platter, is connected to the rest of our body. So if our body is moving to this, it's much more likely that our hand is. Also, you're producing energy by moving. Some of you are bouncing as I'm Some of you are bouncing as I'm bouncing. That's just like natural. That's natural. That's going to happen. Same with your audience, by the way. And that's not just for scratching. That's also for DJing in general. Like if I'm moving to this, chances are the audience is much more likely to be moving to this to understand where the beat is and how I should be moving. So we're gonna start with a follow the leader track. By the way, what I recommend is we start with something that's more mid-tempo. So 90 to 110, 105 beats per minute, something in that range. So I've got something here. What is this at? 101, 102, something like that. All right, ready? Here we go. Want to lock this beat in. Okay, here we go. I'm with you guys. Here we go. Ah. Switch up. That's an 8 to a quarter. If you get lost, just reset by hitting the hotkey. That's a combo. Try to follow along. Reversed it. Back to the 8. Releasing. Bring it back to the very beginning. That's an 8 to a release. 16 to a release. All right. Not bad. All right, nicely done. All right, so now a couple of things I do want to point out. If you get lost, and actually let me switch back over. If you get lost at all, like see, so now my sound is a little bit off. My sound is, the beginning of the sound is not quite at 12. So if I get lost like that, what I can do is I can reset. So all I did is I moved the record to be where I wanted it to be, and then I hit the hot cue. So for instance, like if I'm here holding at 12 o'clock, and I want 12 o'clock now to be this one. Now that's at 12 o'clock. Or I can put another one there.
Juiced 40.
Oh my God.
Right? So the other thing I want to point out, though, is you don't need to only scratch to sounds. In fact, I could take a beat. So let me just take, I don't know, take one of these house beats. Now, obviously, I'm not going to use the house beat to mix. I'm just going to use the kick drum here. So I can... Because ultimately, when we actually scratch, we're not just going to, I mean, there are times where maybe this track falls into instrumental and then you want to scratch along to it, almost like a solo. In that way, you would use like you could use an ah sound or a horn stab or the oh my gosh, or like you could use some something like that in that moment. However, a lot of times what I'm doing is I'm using the scratch as I'm mixing. So right before I drop in the song, I'm using a scratch. And so by doing that, having this same motion, same movement, same notes, same same of what we actually did. So I don't want you to think, oh, I can only scratch to that ah sound or to that scratch sample track. Like, oh, I'm going to scratch. Now I got to pull up that sound. You could scratch to anything. Now, the key to finding something good to scratch with is that the sound itself that you're using is not muddy. Is not like there's not too much going on. So this is a great one to use because it's just a kick drum here. Right, so you could use anything. So there you have it. Hopefully this helps, and this is a really great technique to use, and it's super fun to scratch, especially on the motorized platters. You can scratch without the motorized platters as well. So I don't want you to think like, okay, the gear is what is allowing me to scratch. I will say that the motorized platters are meant to feel more like the experience that you would feel on a vinyl turntable because they're moving. And so there's other things that you have to consider as they're moving, like the drift, the touch and the feel is different than what it would be on a platter that doesn't move, that doesn't rotate. So again, don't think that like if you have another piece of gear, maybe you have the DJ Control Impulse T7, but you also have the 200, the Impulse 200, and you're like, oh, but I can't scratch on that. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. The jog wheels are smaller. In fact, like I've got one here actually. The jog wheels are smaller, and you'll sort of see here if I switch over to the overhead. I mean, the jog wheels are so much smaller, and they don't actually spin and rotate, but you would use the same technique. So I would still be at 9 o'clock. I don't have the line to help me on that, but there is this little mark here, that little kind of triangle mark there, and I can use that to pay attention to where that little piece is at. I mean, I know that might be hard for you to see there. There's a little mark here. But either way, you can scratch with that as well. So don't think that, oh, I can only use certain gear when I scratch. It's going to feel different on each of these pieces of gear, though, when you do, and it feels awesome on a motorized platter. So hopefully that's helpful for you. I just want to remind you, we've got more videos specifically on the DJ Control Impulse T7 here within the DJ Academy. For those of you who want to do the full DJ challenge using Serato DJ Lite or Serato DJ Pro that also works with the DJ Control Impulse T7, Hercules has gifted you free access to that course. If you want that link is below in this video. Go ahead and check that out. That's over on our site, thedjcoach.com. I'll see you over there, or I'll see you on another video here inside the DJ Academy. Happy scratching. I'll see you later.